are these people?
This one has a paragraph and something that's super important that I want to get to. This is a story that came out today from ProPublica, which is a nonprofit outlet that relies a lot on government funding. I'm worried that Trump's going to pull their funding after seeing this. All right. But the conflict of this Department of Government Efficiency agency, it's funded and acts like a federal agency. But the problem is that the White House has shielded them from rules that govern such agencies, which makes it something that has never existed in this country, which is a federal agency that is not subject to transparency, accountability, or anything other than the personal wills and wishes of the president or anyone who's affiliated with it. No oversight, nothing. Okay, specifically, all right, that he's called DOGE maximally transparent. Trump said that over 100 people work there, but his administration has refused to make information about their spending and operations public. In an effort to gain a clearer understanding of its inner workings, they've gathered the names and backgrounds of the people employed there, identifying some 46 people, including 12 new names that they added to the list today. Like literally, okay, so this was February 20th that they nailed this down. This is about a week ago, 10 days ago. Trump and Musk have defended DOGE as a tool for trimming the fat from what they see as a bloated bureaucracy. We still, by the way, have no list of exactly what the cuts are that they're planning on. They've just been outing what the spending is on their political enemies and cutting those departments, but not really exactly how much that's going to save over time or what the long-term effects are. The effects of those cuts have proved crippling, bringing a halt to programs that provided essential services to vulnerable populations across the country and the world. And they're crying about USAID because USAID didn't just do domestic and international spying operations. They actually did help poor people in poor countries. The top Democrat on the House Appropriations Committee, Representative Rosa DeLauro from Connecticut, told ProPublica she didn't believe DOGE had the legal authority for the actions it's taken. She called it a made-up federal department that's wasting taxpayer dollars. And this is how. Most of DOGE's money has come in the form of payments from other federal agencies made possible by a nearly century-old law called the Economy Act. To steer those funds to the new department, the Trump administration has treated DOGE as if it were a federal agency. And by dispatching members of its staff to other agencies and having those staffers issue edicts about policy and personnel, DOGE has also behaved as an agency-level authority, right? But the use of the Economy Act would seem to subject DOGE to the same open records laws that cover most federal agencies, such as the EPA or the State Department. However, DOGE has refused to respond to the FOIA requests, saying it operates with executive privilege. Musk also flip-flopped about whether DOGE staff members were paid. Initially, he said they weren't, but earlier that week, he said some of them were. Who they were and how much is still to be determined. The conflicting stances put the Trump administration in a bind, legal experts say, because if DOGE is a federal agency, it can't shield its records from the public. If it's not an agency, then tens of millions of dollars in funding weren't illegally allocated and need to be returned, some contend, which we know they're not going to do. The administration can't have it both ways. A federal judge presiding over one of the many DOGE-related lawsuits also recently grilled the admin's lawyers about its conflicting stances. All right. We're not an agency where we don't want to be an agency, but we are an agency this one instance where we want to be. That's literally what the district judge characterized the government's position as. Ridiculous.
Okay.
All right. All these people are spread across agencies. One of the names newly added to the tracker, Catherine Armstrong Loving, is the sibling of crypto executive Brian Armstrong. That name came up earlier, who runs the industry leader Coinbase.
Of course he does.
Coinbase donated $1 million to Trump's inauguration fund, and Armstrong met with Trump to discuss appointments to administration posts according to the Wall Street Journal. Now, what happened this week was that a lawsuit that was looking into, that a federal investigation looking into Coinbase mysteriously got dropped by the Justice Department. Go figure. All right, go check out the rest of this article at ProPublica. Our friend the Dissident has been on fire. If you're not subscribed to the 307.substack.com, go subscribe. So he put out one last night or the other day, how Israel manipulates people through atrocity propaganda. And this lays out in the scope of the return of the Bibas family to Israel. And that's a whole fuck Israel story I don't even want to get into. The way that they propagandized this entire story. They propagandized a story about a family that it turns out the IDF killed in a bombing, but they positioned it as that Hamas returned them mutilated and it's terrible. All right. And they've been using this atrocity propaganda and then later admit, maybe that's true, but don't worry about that now. But by the time anybody hears that, it's the big story's already over and most people have already, again, a lie can make its way around the world 10 times before the truth has the time to put its socks on. All right.
Yep.
So read this from the Dissident. He also just put out another article today. He's been, again, cranking. And all of his articles, by the way, I try to include in INN newsletter on the daily or weekly basis. Another scathing article you need to read about what the Zionists are trying to do to anti-Zionist writers, journalists, and personalities is what Zei Squirrel published this week. They don't really write very much to their Substack, but there is a South African, how a slave boy of Peter Thiel's own slave boy, Mike Solana, was hired to fabricate deranged screeds smearing the squirrel, embodying the principle that every Zionist accusation is a confession, and lays out all of the receipts and evidence therefore, forthwith. All right, that Ashley Rinsberg, who is this South African, claims that the squirrel was running some massive Hamas propaganda network on Reddit, even though they don't even have a Reddit account. This is entirely fabricated. It's a lie. He knows it's a lie, and instead of admitting that he lied, he just decided to now double down. And yet another unhinged screed he wrote, this time focused entirely on the squirrel. He claims he has receipts, even though his own receipts expose his own lie. But he hopes that if he can conjure up enough deranged propaganda smears surrounding it, he can deflect attention from the fact that he brazenly and shamelessly lied about the squirrel and others being part of some Reddit Hamas propaganda network. Long story. Get into that one. All right. And speaking of the squirrel, this is another incredible thread about Peter Thiel. All right. Fanatical Zionist neocon billionaire tech Peter Thiel, who created J.D. Vance's entire career and whose CIA-founded company Palantir is a core part of Israel's machinery of genocide in Gaza, is, of course, also closely connected to Jeffrey Epstein's pedophile sex trafficking ring. And this is, again, a long thread that you should definitely look into. Also happened this week, the funeral of Lebanese martyred leader Nasrallah, where allegedly 1 million people attended that funeral. Professor David Miller, British professor, we've covered a couple of his articles, one about the Cyaneem this summer, tweeted out, said, a bit of news from me on how the Zionists bounced the counterterrorism command into detaining me at Heathrow Airport. At 11:30 or at 9:32 on the evening of Monday, the 24th of January, I stepped off a plane from Istanbul to Heathrow and into the terminal building. In front of me were a wide circle of people, evidently waiting for someone, perhaps for a number of passengers. I knew right away one of them was me. One of the SO-15, formerly Special Branch, plainclothes officers of the Counterterrorism Command, for it was them, asked for my passport and whether I had started my journey in Istanbul. Of course, I knew that they knew this wasn't the case. In any case, I had done nothing wrong in, as I said to them, visiting Beirut to cover the funeral of Saeed Hassan Nasrallah. This was my first taste of Schedule 7. They started to explain what Schedule 7 was, and I said, yes, I know about it. From being stopped before? No, because I'm a researcher who studies terrorism legislation. And then on the moving walkway, I realized that the circle of people had only been waiting for me. I looked around and counted out loud. I know I'm a big lad. As I said, I'm over 6 feet. But you really need 8 officers to detain me? More details here and more coming. So read that press release from David Miller, by all means. Again, this is further fascism, further authoritarianism, cracking down on anybody who is speaking out against Israel's war crimes and the U.S. and British support of those war crimes, which then further implicates the U.S. and British government in war crimes. I wanted to follow up also to the story that we covered last week about Yves Engler, because the last we spoke, he was still rotting in a Canadian jail last Sunday. And they lost his paperwork on Monday for most of the day, but we got a tweet from him. We got a tweet from him on the 27th, right, in the morning. And what he said was, thank you to the thousands who supported me after spending 5 days imprisoned for tweeting about a Zionist being fascist. I was released without restriction on my ability to discuss the charges brought against me for criticizing Israel. It's a small win for free expression and Palestine campaigning. In court on Monday, the judge effectively forced the Crown to drop its bid to block me from mentioning arch anti-Palestinian Dahlia Kurtz. The Crown wanted to restrict my ability to mention the name of the Jewish supremacist who instigated a police complaint against me. The outpouring of support has been heartwarming and helpful. On Thursday morning, 30 joined an emergency rally to accompany me to the police station where I was detained. A similar number showed up at court on Friday, and on Monday morning, I was told 100 rallied at the court. 30 were still there when I was released after 7 p.m. Protesters' presence in the court Monday morning is probably what prompted the judge to demand the jail send me immediately to court. Apparently, there was a mix-up on the date for my bail hearing. What a mix-up. Those who came out ensured the judge considered the free speech Palestine issue seriously. A slew of guards commented on the number of supporters inside the court and who later waited outside for my release. As a result, they treated me more respectfully because they knew that eyes were on them. In response to their initial call, over 4,000 emailed a Montreal police inspector calling for them to drop the charges against author Yves Engler. Subsequently, more than 6,000 emailed the Montreal police chief and mayor requesting my release from jail and the withdrawal of all the charges against me. U.S. folk music singer and friend of the show, David Rovix, wrote this song, What's Going On Here, Montreal, about my imprisonment, and Kurtz's violent anti-Palestinian views. Rock legend Roger Waters also produced a short social media clip calling for my release and criticizing Kurtz, which was viewed by hundreds of thousands. PEN Canada and PEN America posted messages to Twitter about the case. On Tuesday, the Canadian branch of a lobby group for persecuted or imprisoned writers wrote a letter to the Montreal's mayor and police chief expressing concern regarding my arrest. Prominent international journalists Glenn Greenwald, Ali Abunimah, Aaron Mate, Caitlin Johnstone, and others, not so prominent like us, posted or wrote about the case. Senator Yuen Pao Wu posted multiple times expressing concern about the charges. Hundreds have donated that sent messages of support. We won the first round in this battle to suppress the speech on Palestine, to write about the person who brought the charges against him. Amazing that we had to fight that battle. It's also scandalous that the police responded to my writing about the case by claiming I was harassing them. And really what was happening was that they were claiming he was harassing them by sicking his audience on them and telling his audience what happened, and their, action afterwards that then emailed and flooded the servers of the police chief and the investigator. The Crown should immediately drop all charges against me, apologize and compensate me for my imprisonment. Of course, I'm not holding my breath for the system to do the right thing. But a little bit of good news that he's not rotting in a Canadian jail anymore. And he was out there this week chasing after and following Canadian politicians to ask them about their positions on Palestine. Very outspoken and not being deterred. Shout out to Yves Engler. Glad he's out. Erin Brockovich, we haven't checked in on her in a while. Another Indie Media Award honoree. She wrote something terrible that you all need to see. A cocktail of chemicals remains in our drinking water. And a lot having to do with PFAS. And we talked about them making a law to outlaw PFAS in drinking water. Well, not so fast. Despite mounting scientific evidence and public concern about U.S. drinking water quality, federal action remains sluggish at best. Last year, the EPA introduced the first drinking water standards in more than 20 years, right, for 6 PFAS. A new update on EWG's, the Environmental Working Group tap water database, shows millions of Americans are drinking water tainted with heavy harmful chemicals, heavy metals, and radioactive substances. Many of these contaminants are at levels far above what scientists consider safe and effective. All right. So again, I will drop this link in the description afterwards. Again, another somewhat long and frightening article, but we need to be aware and be informed and drink purified water. Zero water, by the way, highly recommend. Our friend Chanda did a great show last night with Oz, Beauty and the Boomer. She'll be live tomorrow, Trailer Park Pundit, 1 p.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Pacific. And she needs our help fighting against small cell lung cancer. She's fought quite a bit of it back, but we're still not there yet. And anything you can do to help in the GoFundMe, greatly appreciated. And that will be in the description afterwards as well. Finally, the one thing that I ask you to check out is my conversation with Gen X Girl 1994. That you can find at innnewsletter.com. We also live streamed it twice yesterday to our YouTube channels, looped in the morning twice, and then later on in the evening just once. So go check that out. We talked about Zionists of America, which is an organization, Beitar US, which is now deemed a terrorist organization in America, and how it's linked to Mayor Eric Adams, and how the lobby influence organization works in the United States.
Have a good time with your Bitcoin?
No, please do not pay us in Bitcoin. Please do not pay us in anything other than fiat USD cash if you are able to.
And everything else that you're playing with.
Shut up, you clown. All right. So there's our wall of fame. We love these people. All right. The way to get us actual cash like Colin just did is ko-fi.com/Indie News Network. We have Cash App, $Indie News Network, PayPal.me/Indie News Network as well. And then, of course, we have our innnewsletter.com, which I'd love for you to subscribe to. But you know what? Don't pay there. Go to Ko-fi, because INN Newsletter, let me tell you, Substack takes 10%, and then Stripe takes another 2.5%. So we're only getting, again, let's try to keep as much. You want to support the streamers? Those platforms have got hundreds of millions of dollars in VC money that are supporting them. We got you for supporting us to hold them accountable. We do not accept Bitcoin. We do not accept crypto. I don't want crypto. Fuck your crypto. I love you if you want crypto, but we're not interested. I know that it's a scam. But these people gave us an actual cash to one of those places, Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, or innnewsletter.com by subscribing on a monthly or annual basis. We are definitely demonetized, deboosted in the algorithm, and in Rockfin's case, soon to be deplatformed, likely. So support us there where you can. Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal.
Asking for your financial support.
We have to get some new people because I don't want to hear that asshole's voice ever again. All right, and certainly not asking anyone for money because I still want my
keep doing it.
I want my $27 back.
Keep doing it.
Fuck
just
that.
To upset you.
Cash App, $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. Sign up at INN Newsletter.
Break here.
No, sign up at INNnewsletter.com, but don't pay any money over there because Substack doesn't deserve the money. They've been really douchey and throwing all their efforts into corporate media hacks like Jim Acosta and Jennifer Rubin. And I saw Joyanne Reed, by the way, this week.
Coming to a Substack newsletter near you.
Yep. She's there too now. It's just a matter of time before we get Rachel over there too. Hempcar, good to see you. I stayed at home and went to the local college, no loans. By the way, Hempcar is one of those fam that I thankfully found, reconnected with on Facebook. He was watching us exclusively on Rockfin. It's like, you guys disappeared. I don't know what happened. Then I explained what happened, and he's like, oh shit, well, I'll come over on Rumble. But again, don't Rumble rant, because Rumble rant, they take 50%, and then we have to pay PayPal. If you're going to subscribe at Rumble, do it with a monthly subscription there. The channel subscriptions, they claim to pay us 100%. And then we got to pay PayPal a little rip, but okay.
Thing sucks.
Yeah. I mean, just getting paid out, and it's such a hassle that the people watching don't really know anything about having to deal, what we have to deal with that. And once they find out, they feel bad, and they'll alter, hopefully, how they support their content creators so that it puts the most money in their pocket.
People's brains would explode if they realized like everything you got to pay for, all the software you got to do, all the monthly subscriptions you have to have just to use the software, all the like, it's just to get it out to the places where people can see it,
Shout out and love to our brother Oz. Okay.
Correct. What up, Oz?
Stay away from my chickens, Oz.
Stay away from my chickens, Oz. And definitely eggs, too.
Yeah.
Stay away from my eggs. You can help us out by contributing over at Cash App, Ko-fi, PayPal, or even at Substack, although try to do it one of the first three. Cash App if you have $Indie News Network, ko-fi.com/Indie News Network, paypal.me/Indie News Network. Yeah, support independent media because we need it more than ever, and I love you all.
Yeah. Bye, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
No! We just fucking lost the stream!
Can't keep giving us nothing and think we're bluffing about coming for your heads. Why play civil if you won't listen to 50,000 dead? And now we know our mission, we form a militia, make Congress a prison. No, I play civil when all these dead won't make you listen. What's more American than slaying your oppressors? What's more American than liberty or death first? God, I thought we were founded on abolishing the tyranny of those who would starve a village all to live empirically. And I regret that I have only one life to give for my cause now that I can see the cause so clearly. See, I want our leaders, regardless of party, to fear me.